So we're here in front of Woodsy's Music Shop in downtown Kent, Ohio. Why? Because we built a custom modular building based off of this building. This is a legendary building and we made it chock full of details. We used some great angles, great snot techniques, and some nice parts usage. Come on, I'll show you. The Assembly Square Modular included a little music shop on 2 levels of one building, but it was rather bare and we wanted something more distinct in our town. We figured Woodsy's would make a great addition because it is a legendary music shop near Kent State University, a mecca for music in the 1960s and 1970s. Bands such as the James Gang, featuring future Eagles guitarist and vocalist Joe Walsh, Glass Harp featuring the iconic guitarist Phil Keaggy, Devo, the Raspberries, and more were prominent acts that played here regularly before making it big. So our goal is to honor the design of the original building while making sure that we adhere to the standards of an 18+ Lego building. That's unique angles, great parts usage, and snot techniques. One of our other goals was to make sure we were able to do this together as a family and have an enjoyable experience, which it definitely was. We pulled pieces from our collection, made a few bricklink orders, and eagerly awaited their arrival. Once they came, we poured out the pieces, sorted them, and started building. The actual sidewalk outside of Woodsy's isn't very interesting, so our first modification was to place a brightly colored sidewalk design depicting eighth notes. Note the use of the new 1x2 angle tiles in dark blue, which first arrived in the Tournament Temple City, which helped accomplish the look of the notes. Then it was time to build one of the most difficult parts of any modular building, and that is the first level facade. So I love the angles here in the entryway, which are unique to any existing Lego modular building and presented a challenge for us to build. Our solution was to use snot techniques to work this out. Using dark blue and white bricks, plates, and cheese slips, we were able to get the main horizontal wall in place. On the inside wall, we used brackets, which were needed because of their half stud depth. We then used some 1x2 by 1 2/3 snot bricks placed at a 45-degree angle to create the overall angle, and placed a 2x4 plate and then some dark blue and white 1x4 tiles on it to maintain the bifurcated design. Once that was done, we could line up some plates, modified plates, and tiles on top to create the sill. And then it was time for my favorite feature of this build, the 6x9x6 clear panels. These pieces are hard to find, but I fortunately had some from the old town plan and OG Ninjago City sets. When installed, they look incredible, and of course, we had to add in a window display. The inside of music shops are full of instruments and gear and accessories, and we wanted our build to reflect that by having a lot of Lego instruments as well as tons of mini builds. We first wanted to make a cool tiled floor pattern, which we accomplished by using lots of dark blue corner tiles along with medium azure and orange 1x1 tiles. We added some boxes in the back corner under the stairs to add some clutter, which you oftentimes will see in music shops. Another feature is the album table, which has a bunch of these 2x2 round tiles as records for minifigs to peruse. There's also this shelf in the back, which has space for some 2x2 tiles depicting various albums. Oh, and there are lots and lots of guitars hanging on the walls, like Flying V's, Jacksons, acoustic guitars, and my favorite, the Fender Stratocaster. We even included a small floor rack where you can test out some guitars. Every good music shop has drums, and we featured this set in the front window. It's got 3 toms, a crash, a ride, a hi-hat, snare, and bass drum. In other words, a full drum kit, and far better than the dinky little thing we got in the 2022 Winter Village set, which we happened to toss onto the second level. Of course, we also needed a counter with guitar pedals featured inside a glass cabinet. Knowing the obvious demand for cool pedals in our modular city, we added a shelf with even more pedals. I wonder what this one does. Music shops have tons of posters and mementos on the walls, like these. We made sure to include a bunch of brick-built wall decorations in ours. The stairs at Woodsy's are narrow and pretty old school, so we followed suit in our modular by using a bunch of 2x2 modified tiles with 2 studs in black. It's a unique staircase, and one you won't find in any existing modular building that's Lego produced. It definitely was finicky getting everything to line up, and It could use a bit of tweaking, but the design fits well with our build. So while guitars are my favorite instrument, there are a lot of other instruments in music shops like keyboards and wind instruments and even lots of stringed instruments. Our first level is pretty tall, about 15 bricks tall, so we had to fill up the space as we transitioned to the second level. That's why we added some huge murals along this front wall and added some more instruments along one of the sides. The second level is where we strayed perhaps most from Woodsy's design. Instead of an asymmetric facade, we went with a more standard approach, using 1x2 and 1x1 reddish-brown bricks to achieve a brick-like look. We also incorporated 3 columns of reddish-brown ingots to add some detailing to the front. My favorite aspect of the second level is the 5 stud-wide windows, which use more snot techniques to get the desired look. Using the newish 1x3x3 windows with a flat front, we added another 2 studs in width with brackets, plates, and tiles. We added some tan tiles along the top and bottom to make them look a bit more interesting. On the inside, we added a stand with an upright bass and violin case, a bunch of saxophones, violins, another huge mural, and this grand piano, which is a modified version of Heartbreakers, which you can find on eBay. The piano is open to the public for playing, and I imagine there are always renowned pianists frequently gracing our music shop. We added some bins with microphones, records, and other gear, placed some sheet music along the back wall, and our minifigs are now feeling good about their music options. So then it's on to the roof section. Modular building roofs are really tricky to put together because you really want to keep the builder engaged throughout the entire process, which means you have to use some great building techniques and maybe even some nice parts usage. In our case, we went full snot and nice parts usage by lining the front section with 2x2 modified tiles with 2 studs in reddish brown, lots of snot bricks, and then inserted some microphones with golden tips. It's not how the real world Woodsy's looks, but I think it's creative and adds a nice touch of detail. After adding some other flourishes, such as ingots, inverted arches, tiles, and some of those pyramid slopes, we were ready to go back outside for the finishing touches. We are back outside at Woodsy's, and behind me you can see the big blue awning and their custom sign. Now, I'm hesitant to put stickers on Lego pieces, so we went with a slightly different approach for our building. We kept the awning alternating blue and dark azure bow slopes. It's reminiscent of the Cafe Corner, which is the set that got me hooked on modulars. We had to adjust the angle a little bit in order to fit the standard lamppost on the street, but I think it looks fantastic. We also added this little paper box outside, which is a nice touch. Maybe it shows off the upcoming shows in town, has some classifieds of people looking for musicians to join their band, or maybe even has some sheet music in it. It can be whatever you want it to be. Now for our sign, we went bold, really bold. Space was a bit tight, and it turned out to be a bit bigger than we wanted it to be, but the idea was to use these 22 length bar pieces to mimic staves on sheet music. Now, I know there are only 4 instead of 5, but you can use your imagination. After all, the guitars that Lego makes don't have 6 strings, and the violins definitely don't have 4 strings, and the piano that we have doesn't have 88 keys. I also placed a bunch of instruments on the sign and angled them to make it more dynamic. Back here in Building Together HQ, we proudly present to you our custom modular music shop. We hope that you enjoyed the process watching us go from the very beginning of the build all the way to the end, and that you learned something about building techniques and had fun at the same time. Keep in mind that we are working on some instructions for this mock, so be sure that you subscribe to the channel. That way you know when they are available. They will be available on rebrickable.com, and if you want to help us out, you can go ahead and buy those. If you don't want to, that's okay. We hope that you subscribe to the channel, and always remember to keep building together.